disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Debbie, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the June 26th through July 2nd issue of Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our first article actually headlines this issue, Daycare Desert, Thin Supply and High Costs, especially downtown, highlight a regional problem with real workforce impact, by Tracy Drury. Betsy Campbell was about 3 months shy away from giving birth to her first child when she started signing up for daycare slots. 2 years later, Campbell is thrilled her 22-month-old daughter has been accepted at a highly regarded child care center in downtown Buffalo. But the high demand for child care means she'll only get coverage 2 days a week and will continue using a home-based daycare operated by a family friend, plus help from grandparents who also work full-time. There was one well-respected daycare I started looking at when she was 6 months in utero who said, "We would love to put you on the wait list, but we're going to be honest with you, it's very long and the chances of her getting in are very low," said Campbell, who works at Feedmore of Western New York as a community engagement and event specialist. Access to quality child care in Buffalo remains challenging, with few options downtown, high rates everywhere, and long waiting lists. The issue hurts not only the region's families, but also its employers, as some parents choose to step back or leave the workforce altogether when they can't find care. Census estimates show the Western New York region has just 22,000 regulated child care slots available to serve a population of more than 80,000 children younger than 5, according to a report by the Child Care Resource Network. And if you can find a slot, the average cost of care for one child in New York is $16,400 to $20,978 a year, according to Child Care Aware of America 2025. We found one big box daycare, a national company with a local presence, and we had a 3-month wait to get her in. But the location wasn't ideal where my husband and I both work, and we had to go back to the drawing board, Campbell said. It was tough. If I was not at an organization that supported women like Feedmore does, I would have had to stop working or send her to a place I wasn't really comfortable with. The issues of cost and access by families are directly tied to challenges facing providers who struggle to meet a complex regulatory environment to start up new locations while trying to recruit and retain quality workers earning close to minimum wage. The Western New York Women's Foundation has been studying both sides of the issue for more than a decade. We're trying to build a workforce, a healthy economic infrastructure, and we don't have affordable, accessible childcare, said Sherry Scavone, CEO at the Women's Foundation. Most of the state, including this region, is a child care desert, meaning that there's not enough child care to begin with. Besides funding research and advocacy, the foundation is also working in partnership with JCC Buffalo on a plan to launch a downtown daycare site on or near the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. The JCC also runs sites of its own on Delaware Avenue and in Gettsville. The Medical Campus project would add 155 slots, either at a new build site at a cost of $9 million or at one of two potential sites that would undergo renovations at an unknown cost. The partners expect to make a final decision by late summer. The reality of it is that there is no child care in downtown Buffalo, and there is an increased awareness of the fact that we need to do something, Scavone said. On-site care is one option for companies to consider. Some employers are taking matters into their own hands by developing their own or partnering with providers to offer child care on-site, though the numbers remain low. The International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans Employee Benefit Survey 2024 report found that Just 6% of U.S. organizations offer on-site or near-site childcare. The likelihood of the offering, however, increases with employer size, according to Mercer's survey on health and benefit strategies for 2025. The group found that 9% of employers with 500 plus employees and 13% of employers with 5,000 plus employees offered or plan to offer on-site childcare in 2025. Companies that have made the leap say prioritizing childcare on site has boosted both recruitment and retention rates. Rich Products began offering on-site childcare in 1990 when it opened a program on its Niagara Street campus in partnership with EduKids. The program, now operated by Bright Path Learning, Early Learning, and Childcare, has 95 slots with 3 days running at full capacity. Access is limited to the 1,000 Buffalo-based associates of the $5.8 billion global food manufacturer. Our recruiters say, as they are talking to candidates, they feel that this is a big selling point to working families who want to have their children nearby, says Amanda Diamond, Senior Manager for Talent Acquisition. One of the things I really think it shows is we think about candidates and associates that we understand that life can be more than just a job. We understand that there's more to life than work. More recently, the nonprofit Greenfields Continuing Care Community spent $1.2 million to build a 10,000 square foot fitness center and 80-slot child care center on its Lancaster campus in 2019, contracting with a local provider that was bought out in 2025 by BrightPath. The project was a major financial investment, but has been proven worth it, according to CEO Christopher Koenig. While part of the goal was to introduce intergenerational programming with the older adults living on campus, the main benefit was offering childcare to the 500 staffers at Greenfields, plus area residents. We did a needs analysis years ago to see what else we could offer our staff other than benefits. Childcare came up and leisure activities, he said. Most people are looking for childcare close to where they are working. Although not all employees take advantage of the care, just knowing that it's there has helped with recruitment, Koenig said. It's the comfort of having it because it's there, he said. We've had staff who have said that on their lunch break they can visit their children, especially new parents. And with all the anxiety that comes with it, it's helped them to be close to their families. Rochester-based First Learning has been working with area chambers of commerce as it expands its local presence, including acquiring 2 Island Kids child care centers on Grand Island this spring. The company entered the market in 2025 with the acquisitions of Briarwood child care locations in Amherst and Hamburg. The company now has more than 20 sites, including 14 in Rochester and 1 in New Windsor, with additional deals in the works for Syracuse and Buffalo, CEO David Kolzinski said. Still, even a bigger company like First Learning has struggled to make programs work at employer sites or multi-tenant office buildings, partly due to employers being hesitant to be the middleman, he said. We hear a lot about this, but we've never gotten past the conversation point, he said. There's a lot of discussion locally and nationally about businesses and the need for childcare. In my experience and with other owners, it just hasn't gotten the momentum it needs to get over the top. State-funded universal childcare possible. Another solution could be state-funded, with New York committing $8 billion towards universal childcare, starting with pre-K programs in New York City and increased subsidies for families across the state. Scavone has played a role in advocacy efforts as a member of the New York State Child Care Assistant Task Force. She sees increased interest among lawmakers at all levels. I will say there is a widespread support for childcare, Scavone said. There's an absolute commitment by the political powers and officers in the state to move us to universal childcare. At the same time, it's not happening fast enough, she said. Child care providers are still among the lowest paid positions statewide, with 97% of all other occupations paying more than a child care educator in New York. The state's program provides several levels of subsidies to families to cover the cost of care, as well as funding to help grow the workforce and bolster wages. Increased subsidies to counties is a major factor, Scavone said, and could help hundreds of families gain access to child care, which is only available to those who can prove that they're working. According to a national survey by Catalyst of Women who left the workforce in 2025, 42% who voluntarily left their jobs pointed to caregiving responsibilities. Additional statistics by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics found that women were twice as likely as men to be out of the labor force in 2024 and 25 due to family responsibilities. Families are making a decision because of lack of access and cost of care to leave the workforce, she said. We know that's happening. Explore and More Children's Museum added a child care program during the pandemic and maintains a license for school-aged children during school breaks and holidays. But CEO Michelle Urbanzik said doing it full-time isn't feasible. She pointed to the cost of equipment and training, as well as the requirement to have a full-time director and regulatory requirements such as having 2 sinks in every classroom. It's the startup costs and everything from getting the space in the museum to subsidizing it, she said. There just needs to be some systematic changes to make it affordable. There's a lot of risk for anyone. Several projects underway, but funding is a challenge. Rosalind Cheatham owns Our Family Daycare, which operates as a 24-hour home-based center from 33 Rogers Street in Buffalo. Her business caters to families with non-traditional work hours, such as maintenance and cleaning staff at hospitals on the medical campus. She has a waiting list of 15 children. Cheatham has 2 different expansion projects in the planning stages. The first would put her in the city's Fruit Belt neighborhood, adjacent to the medical campus. She's received designated developer status from the city to develop half a dozen parcels on High, Peach, and Grape Streets into a $10 million child care center, plus a training facility for child care providers. Separately, she's pursuing a $6 million project at 1280 East Ferry Street, where she bought a 16,075 square foot church building in 2025. Plans call for a daycare facility with 8 classrooms to accommodate 89 children per shift, plus 7 apartments upstairs. Although she has received some funding assistance through the Eastside Development Fund and the Community Preservation Corporation, financing the projects has been a challenge. She's waiting to hear on additional state grant applications, but would still need to pay up front, with grants coming as reimbursements after the fact. Meantime, she's operating her existing site with a staff of 9, working about 100 hours per week herself and only taking a paycheck some of the time. I can't afford to pay for additional staff right now, she said. I'm breaking even. It's profitable. I only hire when I have funding to pay them. I have an obligation. I make sure that they're the first ones paid. Lighthouse Learning Centers is working to expand capacity in the city. The company got its start inside of a church, then expanded into the Say Yes building on Jefferson Avenue at Hamlin Park with 82 slots. Rochelle Satchel Robinson, the co-founder and chief development officer, said she has also used her past experience with the Office of Child and Family Services to provide consulting services to help other child care sites get off the ground. That's what led her to her company taking over the 61-slot child care program at the Buffalo City Missions Children and Women's Shelter in February at Cornerstone Manor on East North Street, which serves residents and families from outside the shelter. I felt like I can make much more change in the community if I continued to build these child cares, so I put myself out there as a consultant, Robinson said. Robinson operates a nonprofit Friends of Lighthouse, which is working to open a 3rd site on Northland Avenue near Fillmore Avenue, where she has bought several parcels spanning 9 acres. Plans for the $6.7 million project call for building a facility with 16 classrooms and room for 300 children. She's working with grant writers and has applied for $5 million in state funding to help make it happen. But there's so much need, so many holes, especially in the city, she said. Low wages for teachers have led to a revolving door. Many centers can open up only a portion of their licensed slots because they don't have enough staff to work at the appropriate ratios. Kolsinski said he got into the industry in 2017 when he bought 3 centers from a couple who were retiring. Then he bought 3 more a year later. The number of closures and operators wanting out of the business increased during the pandemic, and it hasn't slowed down since. We've got probably 10 to 11 people who are waiting for us to buy their centers. There's a lot of consolidation happening, he said. It's very hard as an owner of a single center to survive, given all the regulations and paperwork the state has been putting on us. It's very difficult if you don't have a team of people negotiating, helping you navigate. But even though First Learning benefits from economies of scale, it still struggles to retain and recruit. The company has 470 employees, and since January, it has hired 180 people, terminated close to 150 people, and currently has 60 openings. Open positions mean that he can't staff all his classrooms, so the doors stay closed, and he's not alone. Although New York's current licensed child care capacity has surpassed pre-pandemic capacity, low wages has led to staffing shortages that keep hundreds of classrooms closed, according to the Empire State Campaign for Child Care. A survey in early 2025 by the organization of more than 1,250 child care programs across the state found that 2,216 staff positions were unfilled. It's a terribly inefficient revolving door, Kolsinski said. I talked to people across the country. They say this is the worst staffing crisis we've ever seen. I've got room for 400 kids, but I don't have the teachers for 400 kids. We don't have wait lists at all, or centers like we used to have. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article is the business of sports. Well, actually, let's go to first things first. Niagara County prepares a legal fight over unpaid data center sales taxes by Jacob Tierney. Niagara County officials hope the construction of the multi-billion-dollar Lake Mariner data center in Somerset would mean a huge sales tax windfall. That's not how it played out. Lake Mariner has not paid Niagara County one single penny of sales tax, the county manager Richard Upgrove said. The county has hired lawyers to look into whether developer TerraWolf owes millions of dollars in unpaid sales tax or, as the company contends, an obscure state tax law exempts the project. As state tech lawmakers seem to crack down on data center development, a 26-year-old provision in the tax code exempts at least some New York data center operators from sales taxes. Whether that includes the Lake Mariner project is unclear. TerraWolf did not return a request for comment. Typically, developers pay sales tax on the machinery and equipment that they buy to outfit a new facility. These taxes are paid to the state, which distributes a portion of them back to host counties. Developers of large projects often seek exemptions for some or all of their taxes, typically arguing that the economic benefit of their project outweighs the tax revenue. TerraWolf, however, never sought such an exemption. Construction on the Lake Mariner campus on the shore of Lake Ontario began in 2022. It proceeded in phases, and several completed buildings are operational. Earlier this year, county officials asked TerraWolf why it has not paid any sales taxes related to the facility. TerraWolf responded with a letter saying the company qualifies as an operator of Internet data center under state law and is thus exempt from sales taxes. In 2000, state lawmakers added a new section to the tax law that says machinery, equipment, and other tangible personal property sold to a person operating an Internet data center are exempt from sales taxes. It defines an Internet data center as a facility that houses several servers on which reside Internet websites and provides uninterrupted Internet access to its customers' web pages. Data centers were very different today from when the law was written. It preceded the invention of cryptocurrency and generative AI, both of which have created a massive boom in data center development as builders spend billions to satisfy an unprecedented demand for computing power. The Lake Mariner plant started as a Bitcoin mining facility. Later, TeraWulf shifted its focus, and the project's subsequent phases have been focused on providing computing power for AI. County officials argue that neither Bitcoin mining nor AI hosting qualifies as hosting internet websites, but Updegrove says he's received very little guidance from the state on what exactly the tax law covers. I called the Department of Taxation and Finance multiple times, and nobody will talk to me, he said. The state could change it tomorrow, and they just haven't. The State Department of Taxation and Finance did not answer Business First specific questions about the data center exemption, instead referring to a 2012 bulletin that largely restates the terms of the original law. A department representative also provided a link to the state's annual tax expenditure reports, which estimates the data center exemption will cost the state about $12 million in lost tax revenue in 2026, up from $6 million in 2020. However, the state gives this estimate a reliability level of 4C, the second lowest available, meaning that the estimate is based on incomplete and uncertain data. Updegrove said Niagara County doesn't know exactly how much money it might be missing out on. TeraWulf has not shared the total cost of the Lake Mariner facility, though in public filings the company has disclosed it borrowed $3.2 billion in 2025 to finance a portion of the project. Our information is very limited in terms of the scope of the project and the type of equipment that's being purchased, Updegrove said. Equipment purchases are typically the largest part of the budget for a new data center, said Updegrove. Updegrove said the sales taxes on billions of dollars worth of equipment would have a significant impact on the county budget. On May 28th, the Niagara County Legislature held a special meeting where it voted to hire Hudson Russ, LLP, to look into Lake Mariner, determine whether any sales tax should have been collected, and begin litigation if necessary. Moving along now to the sports side, the Sabres have secured a sponsor for the home jersey patch. Seneca Resorts and Casinos deal includes training program open to native youth. A local brand will be the Buffalo Sabres' first home jerseys patch sponsor. The team recently announced that the Seneca Resorts and Casinos will be its official home jersey patch partner. The news comes about a month after the Sabres revealed that Buffalo-based Stark Tech, a technology provider of energy and facility solution, signed a 5-year deal to be the team's away jersey patch sponsor. Terms of the deal was not disclosed. Previously, the Sabres were one of the few National Hockey League teams that didn't have a jersey patch sponsor. The Seneca Resorts partnership will include a new program, Train Like a Pro, aiming to give opportunities for native youth to experience what it's like to be an NHL player through workouts, team building activities, hockey clinics, and nutritional insights. The news also comes following the Sabres' first playoff run in 14 years, which led to more sponsorship activations and led to forecasts of 30% more revenue for the team and around 10 new sponsors by the start of next season. Seneca Resorts and the Seneca Nations already had ties with the Sabres. Seneca Resorts has been and will continue to sponsor the team's annual Native American Heritage Night. Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino is also a Sabre sponsor and was hosting official watch parties for some of the playoff games. The Sabres announced in July 2025 that KeyBank had signed a 10-year naming rights extension agreement for the home of the Sabres and will be the team's away helmet sponsor starting in the 2025-26 season. Sticking with the business of sports, turning Star Wars night into a top moneymaker. During one of the early years of the Buffalo Bison Star Wars Nights around 2009, Anthony Sprague wanted to reenact scenes from some of the Star Wars movies on the field. That game, it rained the whole time. The field was soaked to the point where the reenactors considered canceling the performance, but they decided to push forward. Typically, for a very rainy game, there would be just a few hundred attendees left by the end. But that year, few, if any, of the thousands of fans left. They stayed for the Star Wars show. That was the moment in my mind where I was like, holy cow, this is huge, Sprague said. Then we started really taking off from there, selling out almost every year. Sprague, a huge Star Wars fan, pitched the theme to Bison's leadership around 18 years ago when he was an account executive. He worked his way up and was named general manager of the Bisons in 2020. The annual event has steadily been one of the team's biggest nights of the season, closing in on 250,000 total fans among the 16 Star Wars nights the team has held. This year's was June 13th. The event has had a sponsor since its inaugural year. When Sprague suggested Star Wars Night, there were only a few baseball teams that had ever done it. He came up with a plan for the promotion, factoring in potential returns on investment such as how many extra tickets would sell, how it would impact food and beverage, and what activities would be included in the event. I built the case behind it, he said. It was a small case to begin with, just to say, hey, I think we'll be profitable on this. And then each year, I think we can expand X amount. We'll try anything to be innovative and to see what fans would want to see and give it 2 or 3 year run at least. But after the first year, you just kind of knew. He declined to give specific financials, but said it's one of the best nights of the season's revenue-wise. Getting permission, then growing Star Wars Night. To start Star Wars Night, Sprague connected with the West Michigan Whitecaps, which had done a Star Wars Night, and the Northridge, a local Star Wars character group that has connections with Lucasfilms, an entertainment company and home to the Star Wars franchise. The Bisons got Lucasfilms permission to do things like create a custom cap and logo that incorporated Star Wars with the team's logo, and do performances and create videos for Star Wars Night. When Walt Disney Company acquired Lucasfilm in 2012, the California Entertainment Conglomerate allowed the Bisons to continue its Star Wars Night as long as its entertainment for fans remained in the ballpark. The first Bison Star Wars Night was a smaller event. There were characters in the concourse doing autographs, but no Star Wars jerseys. A few years in, the team added on-field performance. Over the years, the team has added merchandise from themed jerseys to New Era making exclusive caps. The Bison started including a private meet and greet option for the Star Wars characters before the game, which means more people arriving at the ballpark earlier is good for revenue. The Bison Star Wars videos came out of necessity. Around 2012, Sprague asked the Northridge group if they could create a movie because on-field performances between innings left too much room for error. One year, a character slipped. The acts between innings also interrupted the players. The group had fun with the concert, keeping core characters but sprinkling in its own storyline and characters. Now the videos are played on the video board between innings. It gave it new life again, Sprague said. That's really when we started to get a good rhythm. People knew what to expect, and now it's a staple in Buffalo. How about some skiing talk? Holy Mount is investing in bike trails and equipment. Holy Mount is putting 6 figures into repairs and upgrades as it comes off of several years of steadily making additions. The Ellicottville Ski Resort will invest around $705,000 this year, with funds going towards boosting snowmaking processes, adding bike trails, and growing an adaptive bike program, according to Travis Widger, Holy Mount's Director of Snow Sports. The Cattaraugus County's Industrial Development Agency this year approved Holy Mount's application for $56,440 in sales tax exemption. We bring people here year-round for outdoor adventure, whether it's wintertime, skiing and riding on the slopes, or now, in the summertime, hiking, mountain, biking. We have fishing at the top, and there's a disc golf course, Witcher said. Holy Mount employs about 33 full-time equivalent staff, including seasonal employment. That number rises to over 200. The resort has been adding on to its summer operations since launching them 6 years ago. The associated revenue has grown 10 to 20% each year since. The resort adds lift service to its bike trails in 2021, and since 2020 has grown them from around 5 to 25. Part of the 2026 work is adding a green jump line to the bike trails where less experienced riders can try smaller jumps. Adaptive bike programming is expected to begin in 2027. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. In Amherst, a restaurant chain buys a former Bob Evans. A Canadian restaurant group has purchased the former Bob Evans restaurant in Amherst for $2 million, continuing its push into Western New York. WGI Amherst Property Management, LLC, an affiliate of Wynn Group, purchased 1925 Niagara Falls Boulevard from NNN REIT, a large investment group based in Florida, according to records filed with the Erie County Clerk's Office. Greg McCullum of Wynn Group said the company is planning a new restaurant in the 6,153 square foot building, though it's not ready to announce the specific concept. The company will do a total renovation of the former Bob Williams. It will be the second Wynn Group restaurant in the metro area, joining Wynn Japanese and Thai at 7566 Transit Road in Amherst. The Transit Road location was first in the United States, opening in 2023. Wynn Group's other brands include East Izawaka, MA Chinese Cuisine, and Kochi Japanese Barbecue and Beer. There is a $24.2 million island project, and it's targeting the fall start date. A plan to bring long-awaited development to Tonawanda Island in North Tonawanda has taken some significant steps forward, with the development team targeting preliminary construction this fall. We're working our way towards making this project a reality, says Tom Selleck, Chief Operating Officer of Vizonco. Through its Bridge Street Landing LLC, has applied to the Niagara County Industrial Development Agency for tax breaks for the $24.2 million project at 78 to 96 Bridge Street. The company plans to demolish a long unused fire training facility and construct a 4-story building with 114 market rate apartments, 9 waterfront short-term rental units, and a small commercial space. It's seeking a package totaling $6.6 million. North Tonawanda officials have long hoped to see the defunct fire training grounds put to more productive use. In 2020, the city picked downstate developer Penrose to build an affordable housing development on the property. That plan eventually fell through when Penrose was unable to secure affordable housing funding from the state. In 2024, the city started the process over again, picking Vizonco's pitch over 2 other competing proposals. This is really the catalyst project for future economic development of the island, North Tonawanda Mayor Austin Tylick said. Vizonco has increased the project scope since the 2024 pitch. We've worked really hard and close with the developer, Vizone, to make sure it's a great project for the island, Tylick said. The company originally proposed a 3-story building with 73 apartments, 7 short-term rental units, and commercial space. It's since added an extra floor and additional units. Selleck said a larger building with more units is required to make the project pencil out financially. This is a very, very expensive project, he said. It's a feasibility call, maximizing the site to its truest potential and ensuring that the project makes sense. The site is considered a brownfield, and before construction can begin in earnest, the developer will need to mitigate any contaminants found on the property. An evaluation of those contaminants to determine the scope of that mitigation work is currently underway, Selleck said. Additional environmental regulations are in play because it's a waterfront site overlooking the Niagara River. There's a lot of moving parts to this one, Selleck said. Viscone Company will also fund sewer line capacity upgrades and other infrastructure improvements on the island. The city has received a $2.5 million grant for infrastructure improvements, which will be used to reimburse Viscone when the work is done. It's a win-win all around for sure, Tylick said. Viscone is no stranger to building on North Tonawanda's waterfront. The company spent nearly a decade cleaning up and developing 600 to 624 River Road, which now houses 2 large apartment complexes and a mixed-use building. That project wrapped up in 2024. Selig says Visco Company hopes to repeat that success on Tonawanda Island. This is a pivotal project, a gateway to the island, he said. Moving along. How about a career built on purpose? The leadership journey of Douglas DeGaysar. When Douglas DeGaysar joined the ARC Erie County, New York in 1987 as a residential manager, he wasn't seeking a corner office. He was seeking an opportunity to make a difference. Nearly 4 decades later, that purpose-driven commitment has defined a remarkable leadership journey from frontline manager to chief executive officer and helped transform the ARC Erie County into one of Western New York's leading organizations serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. As DeGaysar prepares to retire in December 2026, he leaves behind an organization that is stronger, larger, and better positioned for the future than when he first arrived. During his tenure, the ARC Erie County expanded programs, increased its impact across the region, and grew revenues to $70 million. Yet those who know him best would say that his greatest achievement was never measured in dollars, facilities, or organizational charts. It was measured in people. Throughout his career, DeGaysar continuously developed himself as a leader by embracing new challenges and learning every aspect of the organization. After beginning in residential services, he advanced through a series of increasingly significant roles, including manager of vocational programs at Allentown Industries, coordinator of satellite services, director of residential services, director of quality assurance, chief operating officer, and ultimately Chief Executive Officer in 2018. During his leadership of residential services, the ARC significantly expanded its footprints in the community, doubling the number of residential homes available and creating opportunities for more individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to live in safe, supportive, community-based settings. His growth as a leader was fueled by a simple belief: every person deserves the opportunity to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. As manager of vocational programs at Allentown Industries, DeGaysar oversaw one of the agency's largest operations, providing meaningful employment opportunities for hundreds of individuals with developmental disabilities. The work required equal parts business acumen, innovation, and compassion. When changing environmental regulations threatened the agency's refining operations, DeGaysar developed an entirely new wood finishing process that dramatically improved air quality and workplace safety. The innovative approach became a model for safer refinishing practices. More importantly, it reinforced a perspective that would define his career. While operational accomplishments were important, some of his proudest moments came through residential providers. Some of his proudest moments came through residential services. Among them was the creation of a specialized group home for 6 medically fragile children who had been living on a long-term pediatric unit in Buffalo. The project was so challenging that many other providers refused to even consider it. For DeGaysar, however, the decision was never in doubt. "I remember seeing those children and thinking, how could I not do this?" he said. "They needed somewhere and someone to help them, and I had the honor of helping them." That statement captures the essence of his leadership philosophy. Organizational growth was never the end goal. Growth mattered because it created more opportunities to improve lives. In 2016, DeGaysar was appointed Chief Operating Officer. In 2017, the ARC Erie County CEO stepped aside due to health diagnosis, and the organization's Chief Financial Officer unexpectedly resigned. Despite the unprecedented challenge, he successfully guided major organizational initiatives and maintained operational stability. His resilience, adaptability, and willingness to continuously learn demonstrated the leadership qualities that led to his promotion as Chief Executive Officer in 2018. Under his leadership, the ARC experienced significant growth, modernization, and strategic expansion, yet he never lost sight of his purpose, ensuring that the people served by the ARC remained at the center of every decision. You know, I would have people come up to me years and years after I worked with them. They would say, "You always remembered my name, you always knew who I was, and that made me feel important." As retirement approaches, DiGiussari is preparing to leave behind one of the most innovative and transformative projects of his career, Blackwater Acres, a first-of-its-kind working farm and community hub that will create employment, training, and community opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Years in development, the initiative reflects his vision for innovation, vocational opportunity, community engagement, and meaningful experiences for people of all abilities. I have had a great career. Friends would often complain about their work, but I never felt that. There was never a day that I did not want to come to work. I like the people I work with. I like what I do. Yes, there are always frustrations, but it's good work. After 39 years of service, he leaves behind thousands of lives made better through his leadership, compassion, and commitment to purpose. The ARC Erie County Board of Directors has selected Chief Operating Officer Michelle Cordero to succeed DiGiussari as Chief Executive Officer effective January 1st, 2027, ensuring continuity of leadership and the continued advancement of the organization's mission. Moving along, Buffalo Grand owner faces housing court as city weighs a hotel seizure. 2 months after a potential partnership over the Buffalo Grand fell apart, owner Harry Stinson is due to appear in local housing court to address more than a dozen violations at the property. But even as the city of Buffalo pursues those violations and continues considering a seizure of the hotel under the abandonment process, it remains open to the possibility of a phased reopening of the Buffalo Grand Hotel under its current ownership. The violations, which range from broken windows and doors to rodent infestation and damages to the roof, are on the docket for the Housing Court's July 9th session. The court addresses all matters pertaining to commercial properties. Louis Petrucci, City Commissioner of the Development of Permit and Inspection Services, said the goal remains bringing the property into compliance to allow a reopening. "We do have a couple different pathways forward," Petrucci said. "The door is open. The city of Buffalo doesn't want to be in the hotel business. That's not our goal. Our goal is to have a viable hotel that's available to everyone who wants to come visit Buffalo." Stinson said that he has Buffalo-based Laura Manguso and Associates Architects waiting for the financing to be finalized so he can pay a retainer and get drawings to submit with a formal building permit application. He acknowledged repairs are needed, though he said none are life and safety issues, and said that some predated his ownership. "There is no question that work has to be done, but it's not like this is a dangerous place," he said. Stinson wants to reopen the facility in phases, starting with the hotel rooms and parking, with banquets and events following once repairs are completed to areas that have been affected by the fire that shut down the 486-room hotel in late 2021. "The city is open to that," Petrucci said, "but it needs to see a viable plan from Stinson with key performance indicators and milestones. That includes professional designs and plans, as well as supporting letters of credit or documentation that financing is in place." The law department is still weighing what an abandonment proceeding would look like and whether they're going to pursue it, he said. "The devil lies in the details and how long it's going to take." The hotel has been closed since an early morning fire December 30th, 2021. Stinson spent 2.5 years fighting for an insurance settlement related to that fire that he used in summer 2024 to avoid a foreclosure. Now, nearly 2 years later, he's still working to find financing. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our next article, Women Help Shift Corporate Culture Towards Work-Life Balance. Women exploring careers today will find the culture much more inclusive and flexible than perhaps their mothers did decades ago. Company policies have evolved to recognize that workers often need to juggle their professional life with personal demands. These policies may encourage workers to stay with an employer who is understanding and accommodating. Both men and women benefit from such policies, but many believe it was the arrival of more women in the workforce that made this come to be. Buffalo Business First publisher John Thibault invited 3 women who found success in banking and financial services to discuss how their industries have evolved. Joining Thibault were Tyler Guerrieri, Director of Product Management for Five Star Bank, Michi Needham, Partner for London McCormick, Michelle Sullivan, Partner Withcom. Climbing the ladder. Sullivan entered the accounting field during an era when traditional roles and rigid structures were the norm. Men and the few women in firms wore black or navy suits. Business casual wasn't a thought, she said. The accounting profession in general was a very conservative profession, so dramatically different than where we are today. Sullivan is a CPA whose 30-year career has evolved to include an advisory practice. She is a partner in Witham's audit practice. Witham, a national advisory and public accounting firm headquartered in New Jersey, has been in Western New York market since last August when it welcomed Buffalo's firm Freed Maxick, CPAs. Though accounting was conservative, Freed Maxick had progressive leadership and culture that kept Sullivan in the profession even during a time when she thought she might leave it behind. Sullivan appreciated the diverse client base she worked with in an audit, and she had a mentor who had helped guide her through the ranks until she became a manager. That is when her status in the firm changed. Partners included her in client meetings, which was an important step for her to witness how they functioned. That is where her trajectory to partner began. Guerrieri's career would have looked much different had she followed through with plans to use her biology degree to go into pre-med. However, she followed her second major business into banking. She has been in banking for 10 years, previously with M&T Bank. She joined Five Star Bank last September. I saw the impact that you can have and the difference you can make in people's lives, Guerrieri said. I started my career in the branches. Every day you have a customer coming in. I helped business owners achieve their goals and made sure that they were prepared with what they needed. Or I would help a customer who just wanted to go through her checkbook ledger. Educating around financial literacy, managing finances, and credit card debt is so important. Getting in front of our customers early and often and providing them that information makes a huge difference in the long run. Now working on the product side of banking, Guerrieri no longer has direct contact with customers, but said that customer feedback and market research helps Five Star understand what the issues are and deliver solutions that meets its customer needs. Making a difference is why I got into banking, she said, and that's what's kept me here. Needham has been with Lutz & McCormick for 23 years, focusing in the tax area, specifically real estate. She took a much diverged route from the printing business where she worked as a high school student and thought that she had a future. Her father insisted on college, however, and after sorting through a couple of majors, she settled on accounting. After graduating, she continued her work in printing and added a job doing cost accounting for a small business. One of the owners gave her name to a partner at Lumsden, and that connection eventually led to a tax internship and a job there. She credits the many mentors who recognized her strength and encouraged her. I never started in public accounting thinking I wanted to be a partner, she said. I just liked the job. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the client experience, and I enjoyed the people that I worked with. Culture and retention. It has been a natural progression in the accounting firm from the rigidness of the past to greater flexibility today, Needham says. She credits women's perspective at the top for the shift. There's always the notion that work is work and home is home, and you have to separate the two. Female minds do not work that way, she said. This is just my home calendar, and this is just my work calendar. That doesn't mesh. Teams that she has built understand that members need each other at work and to cover for each other when a pressing personal need takes someone away from the job. That mentality really helps shift the focus, investment, and understanding of our people in order to keep them in the business, which can be demanding, Needham said. You have to have empathy. It creates a stickiness in the team, and we see that with a fantastic retention rate. She said that this outlook didn't come about until women began considering management positions, but thinking that they wouldn't be able to handle both a family and a demanding schedule at work. I think we have done a great job going from a traditional path of this is what you have got to do to how can we make this work for you. We would rather have you here than have you leave, she said. We have been much more flexible in individualizing each person's schedule so that it works for clients and works for us, and it encompasses all of our values. 5 words define 5 Stars culture and what it expects from staff. Be humble, empowered, ambitious, resilient, and transparent. Guerreri said that these words align with her personal values and were key reasons why she joined the bank. The biggest one is being humble. I see it every day from our leadership. I'm a firm believer in being the best that you can be, she said. There's so much pressure on women to get it all right and to balance everything and to know all the answers. If you show up and give your best every day, it might look different each day, but giving your best is what's most important, said 5 Star, encourages that. The other value that Guerreri appreciates is being empowered. I feel empowered every day to raise my voice, to bring up a new idea, and then we have a conversation about it, she said. 5 Star, a more than $6 billion bank, has a size and scale that allows the team there to tailor needs for different client segments while remaining locally focused, she said. The people at the table want to hear our ideas and invite feedback. Being with a community bank, you can see your ideas take place more quickly with more visibility, and it is because you have the decision makers at the table. There's a small group of us, and we are nimble. We are all willing to work towards the end objective. The impact is pretty remarkable. Artificial intelligence is the next pivotal change in most industries, and banking and financial services among them. AI will not replace jobs, Sullivan said, but will help make work more efficient and change how people do business internally with their clients. Banking and financial services are relationship businesses, and knowing how to use AI in an advisory capacity and solve problems for clients will differentiate one person from another, she said. There is an opportunity right now to really lean into that and differentiate yourself, Sullivan said. If it's not AI, it's going to be some other type of differentiation. The key for me is what you bring to the table individually, what makes you unique from the person that sits down the hall. We all come to the table with some different competencies. Someone could be that highly technical person that everyone goes to because they are going to understand complexity and have the solutions. Someone could be the client relationship person who is complementing the technical person. Know what you're good at and really lean into it. The panelists agree that women in general do not advocate for themselves or have the confidence to speak up and take on projects. Needham said that it is the imposter syndrome in which someone doubts their abilities despite evidence of their competence. Women tend to want to see results more than claim the idea was there or have visibility in the process. It is just incredible to see how they minimize themselves. They should not do that. They have to have a voice, Needham said. A lot of what I do with upcoming females in management is getting them outside of their comfort zone, pushing them. This extends to the words that they use. Every time I get an email, I'm just following up. You're not just following up. Stop using the words just. Make it sound as though just makes it sound like you're bothering me, Needham said. She also is mentoring a colleague on the constant apologizing. Stop saying sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What are you sorry about? Stop thinking that you can't do your job. You know you can do your job, so stop apologizing for doing your job, Needham said. What impresses Needham with new generation is how they empower each other and play off each other's strengths. I'm seeing it more and more that younger generations are understanding being inclusive and listening to others and being in groups where everyone has a different experience. They understand why someone thinks a little bit different, and it's not my way or the highway, because everyone has different life experiences, she said. That kind of consideration helps teams mesh and form effective relationships. Workplace flexibility that has prompted that was prompted by the pandemic has become an expected part of employment, but it should not be to the detriment of working in teams, Sullivan said. Everyone adapted to that during COVID, and then people got really acclimated to remote work. Now you have had over the past 12 months, every corporation is mandating back-to-office policies because it just creates a better environment, she said. I feel we are getting better at integrating how we live. Flexibility is key, but so is understanding the importance of working in teams and having that connectivity. If you lose that connectivity, it changes the culture and it ultimately changes the experience. For those who might have hit a low point in their career, some encouragement. Use self-reflection to understand what needs to improve and make the necessary changes, Needham said. You have the people who think this is who I am and I can't change, which I'm not a believer in that whatsoever. Even a half percentage in the direction of change is change, she said. To be unwilling to change doesn't help your team. It creates a negative impact, Needham said. If you do not see a light at the end of your tunnel, that could be a sign that you're not being fulfilled at what you're doing, Sullivan said. We all get really busy, and there are times when your scale is really tipped. So if you are just constantly in a tipped state and you are just never in a place where it levels off, then refresh and reset. You have to take time for yourself, she said. Guerrieri learned long ago that the only way you fail is when you give up. You will never fail if you learn something from it and you take that with you, Guerrieri said. There's no one right path. Success looks different for everyone. Be patient with yourself and give yourself grace as well. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the June 26th through July 2nd issue of Buffalo Business First. We read from Buffalo Business First every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Debbie. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Time Magazine. At 8 o'clock, we have the New York Times, and at 9 o'clock, we have our comic book reading, thanks to our friends at Comic Historian, with Batman number 9, Ultimate Spider-Man 7 and 8, Absolute Superman number 2, and Batman versus Deadpool. Stay with us. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.